What's up, guys and girls? I'm Josh at JBauerArt. This is Back Talk with Bauer, and don't worry, it's not Tuesday night. It's a Sunday morning. We are doing a special Sunday morning edition of Back Talk with Bauer, and we're going to be talking to Dustin Brunell. Hopefully, I said that right. Well, he'll probably correct me afterwards, but it is the creator and writer of The Listener. So we got tons to chat with him. But before we get to that, we got to help keep the lights on, help keep everything rolling. So we got to chat about sponsors. And that is the one, the only Kingdom of Comics, Facebook.com/Kingdom of Comics shop. Also kingdomofcomics.com. You can get new comics. They're an authorized CGC dealer, toys, graphic novels, rare collectibles, pop, statues, back issues, and so much more. They're located at 4320 South Babcock Street in beautiful Melbourne, Florida. Jason and Paula are awesome folks. They are super supportive of what I've done with the artwork, graphic design, and now they're official sponsor of the show. I love having them on board. Make sure to head over on a Friday. You can get half off any beer with the purchase of a trade paperback or graphic novel, and you can sit at the nice little bar and read your book and have a beer at the same time. It's fantastic. Make sure to check out, it's back here behind me, the Recount #2, the exclusive cover by Brian Silverbacks. It's a store exclusive, so you can only get it at Kingdom of Comics, but they have that, so you can message them to get that going. Also, Keanu Reeves has come out with a comic book called Berserker, so you can snag #1 of that. I may be snagging that bad boy here soon because it looks really cool. I'm really interested to see what he's doing with that because, I mean, Keanu Reeves can do no wrong, right? And then Jason is so cool. He messaged me actually yesterday. And he goes, "Hey, I want to see if you'd be interested in one of these." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So he sends me 2 images, and it's 2. He knows I'm a Star Wars fan, been reading the Star Wars comics for a little while now, and wanted to see if I would be interested in getting. He sent me 2 different ones. I couldn't afford both of them because, payments and everything. But I'm going to get this Darth Maul one, and it looks really cool. I'm really excited to read it. But Jason kind of keeps that in the back of his mind. I don't know if he does it for everybody, but he does it for me. So shout out to Kingdom of Comics and Jason and all of them. And make sure to check out my art on the walls. There's about 6 pieces out on display for sale right now. You can get any of those. And then actually on March 20th, I'll be down at Kingdom of Comics for kind of like a live show. And I'm switching out the artwork on the walls as well. So please check that out. Other than that, Kingdom of Comics, Facebook.com/Kingdom of Comics shop if you want to order anything, or the website. And let's get this show on the road. I gotta say, I'm always kind of off on a non-Tuesday night show. I gotta get like in the flow of things and get things going, but hopefully we'll get it all together and have a good show. But I am Josh at JBauerArt. You're tuning into Back Talk with Bauer. It's a show where I sit down and some episodes I interview cool creative people like today. Other episodes I get a group of people to chat about random bullshit. But today is one of the interview ones. This is episode number 48. And just a reminder, if you like the artwork behind me, if you like the logo down below, the video that just happened, I created all of it. You can head over to JBauerArt.com to purchase any of the paintings, get some artwork done. I also got these bad boys up that I just finished over the last couple days. Comic covers. Check those out. Oh, yeah. This one I'm really trying not to keep. I'm trying to sell, but if it doesn't sell in a month, it may just end up on my wall because I did a really good job on it, and I really like it. And then make sure to head over to JBauerArt.com, hit the art shop, and get your hands on the exclusive Iron Man print. It is only up for a limited time. It ends on March 15th. And if you purchase one of those, you get into a drawing for last month's print, which was the Powerpuff Girls. So you may have, I've only sold 2 so far, so you have a pretty good chance of winning both prints and basically getting 2 prints for the price of 1. So please check out JBauerArt.com. Other than that, let's start chatting with our guest today. Let's see. I'm going to bring him up. His name is Dustin, but I think I ruined his last name. How do we say your last name again?
Brunell.
Brunell. I was not even close.
I like Brunell, though. You know what I mean? It has a sense of like darkness about it, and I'm a really light type of guy, really nice guy, so it makes me like feel tough a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for being cool on doing a Sunday morning show. I know it's not the best at times, but I know we're right in that the last week of everything for Kickstarter for this time.
We've got a little bit over a week left. We're at like 118% right now funded, which is super cool, and I'm very thankful for everybody that's backed the book. This is our second issue, so I'm hoping to break. You know, we broke for the first one. The first book, when we put out the listener Addie, Addie is short for Addison, the main character of the book. We don't do numbers. I do titles for each of our books.
Okay.
So, it's an interesting way of bringing more of the interior to the exterior of the book at the same time. You know what I mean? To give you a little bit of idea with what's going on. But yeah, we did like 2,400 was our goal for the first book, and we ended up with 2,600 and something for the Kickstarter for that one, which was phenomenal because no one had ever seen a book by me, you know. So to have our team smash it like that was really cool. So and that took almost the whole Kickstarter time period. This one we're at almost 2,400, and we met goal at 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember it was, Kevin was talking to me about it, and he's like, yeah, we got, let's try to get him on and everything. And then I remember it was real quick, and he's already posting, fully funded, but we're still going. So it's like, damn.
It was a little under 2 weeks we were fully funded, but it was so cool because, like, our art team's the same. Our cover artists are the same. We've got some great names on our covers. We've got some real up-and-coming indie artists on our covers as well. One fun thing that we do with people is we bring on indie talent. You know what I mean? Like, I've been in this industry for almost 15 years now, and owning comics and, pushing art and selling art and owning stores and stuff like that. And it was like the first time it was like pull your people, the talent, in, you know what I mean?
Right.
People that your friends in to do it and stuff like that. And, but then at the same time, it was like, man, when we brought Eric Viola on for the first book, he does our interior artwork. I literally had 150 applicants for that job. And I understand that, paid gigs are, crazy because the amount of great artists that are in this world, but he blew it out of the water, man. And he was the first guy that we pulled on that we didn't know ahead of time, So it was a lot of fun to have him on our team, and he came back. He's dedicated to the series. You'll see him through every book of the listener. And then we brought on Adam Fields, who's incredible, and he's making a big name for himself right now. Oh my gosh, he just did an amazing signing with like 80 sketch covers that he picked up. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it was really, really cool stuff. But he's back for book 2. He's done some beautiful covers for book 2. I can actually show you guys a couple covers while we're on right quick if you'd like to see them.
Oh, yeah.
So these are, real quick.
Let's see.
This is Adam's
when cover. You're ready to put it up. There we go.
Yeah. As soon as I don't know why it's not loading. Give it just a second. There it is. There
we go.
For book 2. When the title of the book is When Winds Weep. And like I said, our covers and our titles have a lot to do with our books, our interiors.
Right.
We're really excited about this one. And then I brought on my buddy Mike's apprentice, Marissa Pope, last book. And these are this is her trade dress and her virgin variant for the book. They came out beautifully. And then we also had, when we met Goal, she actually had, these are colored by our friend Gwen, who does amazing, amazing work. And we brought out their midnight cover, which I don't think I have in this folder, but this is her side-by-side with the cover they did for book 1.
Oh, wow.
We had a lot of fun with that one as well. Like I said, it's just a beautiful team. Like Gabriela Ramos does our cover A's every time. different types of art styles. You know, we really tried to keep everything different. We didn't want to play off the same type of art. This is David Acampo's cover that he did for us.
Yeah, that one was really cool. I dug that one a lot.
You know, we absolutely love his work. He's actually coloring the interiors for our secondary series, Greed. Really excited to have him back on board, and you'll see him doing covers for that one as well. And that's a Turok homage for that particular cover.
Very cool.
A lot of fun, man. A lot of fun working with these guys. But we've also got, we're calling Guy's Journal that we're putting out with this Kickstarter, and there's only like 20 of those left. And what it is it's a 60-page almost character biography book written from the standpoint of one of our main characters.
Oh, wow.
It's, like I said, it's 60 pages. One whole side of it is painted art by Gabriella for each character. And then I write an entire backstory without spoilers for characters you guys haven't even seen yet. So it's like 20 characters you haven't seen, plus the characters that are in the book currently. So I'm really, really excited to see people's feedback on that one. Feedback's been incredible, man. Like, people are really, really digging it.
That is awesome. Shout out to Terry MacGyver and Cal Nunez for popping in. Great to see you guys. Terry's over in Ireland and Cal Nunez is over in Holland. And Terry actually says that you did a great job on Ginger Chronicles recently. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate it. That was a really fun show.
Country's fun to hang out with. He's a good chat.
I'm very thankful because I've hung out with some really cool folks since we put out the first book. Like, I kid you not, I probably went from 50 friends on Facebook. I think I'm over 700 now. And I'm learning all about, you know, the bots and the trolls and everything else as we're going back and forth with this.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a phenomenal experience, though, with the fans and the people that are, the outcry for more content has been amazing. And
that's awesome.
It really, really is, man. Like, we did, so Friday night after we do our show Comic Roddery, that I do with Kevin Yett and all, we do the listener podcast. And we started about 9:00 on EST. And what we do is I'm also writing a tabletop RPG for the listener. So, I've been writing D&D campaigns for almost 20 years, and that's what got me into writing it. Well, my Uncle Dying got me into writing the listener, but the game itself was like, man, if I can write D&D campaigns and I can write Pathfinder campaigns that people were purchasing in our brick and mortar, then, I mean, I'm sure I could write another game of my own, you know? So we started putting it together, and we had a couple fans, like really awesome fans, that wanted to get together with our team, you know, and because there's no cons right now, so they wanted to get together and talk and smooth with the team a little bit, and I'm all for that. You know, I love that. So what we did was, for Win-Wins Week for the Kickstarter, I offered 4 tickets at $75 a piece to go live with our team to play our RPG that we've created.
Oh, wow.
And we've done that every Friday that they were able to so far for the Kickstarter. And we'll continue doing that until the actual Kickstarter for Road to Sin, which is our RPG, drops. I don't have an exact date to that because that's a lot more work than a comic book. Like,
right.
Bananas. But we're having a lot of fun doing that and interacting with folks. And with that $75 ticket, the ticket is basically free because they're getting a CGC yellow label 9/8 copy of the book as well.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, they're getting a really cool book with it, a cover A from Gabriella, which is really, really cool. But yeah, so we're getting into history. We're getting into, you know, a character that is not a superhero, and that was so important. You know, I really wanted, because it was loosely based on a relative of mine, that I wanted it to be down to earth, you know, as close as, you know, spiritually as I could keep it. Because my Uncle Les was one of the first Green Berets, and he served in Vietnam. He was one of the first Native American Green Berets, which was really, really interesting. And when he died, it was like, I didn't want people to forget him. You know? And I know that we all feel like that with loss. You don't want to forget people. but the listener became so much more because he used to tell us all these scary stories and stuff when we were younger about the things he dealt with. And I mean, he went into hiding at one point and we didn't see him for like 20 years.
Oh,
You
wow.
know what I mean? And it was absolutely wild. He came back up and was living near my grandmother in Florida in Leesburg. And, you know, so we started seeing him and we were taking our kids down there and he started telling us crazy stories again. But PTSD was really hitting him at that point in his life.
Yeah.
And we just got to the point where it was like, that's all he would talk about, you know, the stuff that he dealt with. And so when he passed, I wrote a eulogy for him. And I didn't care that people read it or not. It really wasn't about that. It was just about getting it off my chest and getting it into the ether, you know what I mean? So, because Facebook's like MySpace, right? It's never fully going to go away, you know?
Right.
So I was like, if I put it on here, someone can find it 40 years down the road. You'll be able to find this online somewhere, you know, so he isn't forgotten altogether. And so what I did was I wrote the eulogy and had all these people, like I said, I'd been in the comic industry for a while. I had all these people reach out and go, man, you need to write something. Don't just let it go, write something. So I literally put pen to paper, like right after that, like the night of, I called Kyle Willis that night and I was like, man, I need to do something. You know, I need to do something. And he was like, well, do it, you know? And so I started putting stuff together and writing stuff. And then I called my buddy Mike DeBalfo and I was like, man, I don't know anything about this. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, just write down what you feel like writing, right? And I was like, okay. So I started putting together all these amazing artists, you know, that I knew that would be incredible on a cover. You know, Kyle did a cover, Mike did a cover. I was following Adam Fields for like a year. And I was like, man, I don't know if he'd be interested in doing this book or anything like that. And Kyle was like, well, all you got to do is ask him, you know, he can say yes or no. So I was like, okay. So I reached out to Adam Fields and he got into it and he enjoys it and stuff. And, you know, so our team just kept building, you know, with all these amazing people. And the listener started out as a project about war, you know, it was about war and loss. And it built into so much more than that because, like I said, I didn't want a superhero. Right. So I wanted to tie in Native American spirituality and storytelling into this, plus Les's stories and what Les had said. And when you pick up book one, it's brutal. Like, it's in your face. It's very unforgiving because we go into PTSD and we use PTSD to tell history in the listener. So we're educating people in what PTSD is without explaining it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you walk up, like it's like music, right? And I tell everybody music is the best way to explain PTSD because it's almost there. It's not all the way there, but it's almost like when you hear a song that takes you back somewhere. Whereas PTSD is a sound or a sight that completely immerses you in that experience, you know? So in the first book, we have Addie walking toward a flame in a small Japanese encampment, and it literally takes him back to his grandfather being burned when he died. So the Navajo would burn a family member in their home, like all of it to the ground when they passed. So it was really important that we made sure that we got everything correct when we wrote these things, that people understood that, you know, we're acknowledging and showing how much we care about our spirituality and where we are as people. And I lay no claims to tribes or anything because I don't think I've earned that in my life. Right. We're 18%, you know, and that's a lot, but we haven't, you know, we live good lives and we're proud of our lives. So I don't feel like anybody owes me anything. So we don't pitch that kind of thing. So we never bring up tribes. Tribes is not something you'll ever hear in the listener. If you vibe with the stories and you know where they come from, I love it. You know what I mean? Right. The listener we use to educate people as a whole, you know, and instead of using Vietnam, I use World War II because I think people vibe with World War II a little bit differently than they did with Nam. So like, you'll never hear mention of Green Berets or anything like that, but you'll see the wildest and the scariest stuff that we use in book one and in book two was stuff that actually occurred, you know, and that's what's interesting. You know, the scariest stuff, beyond the supernatural and beyond, the spirituality that we bring into it is like there's a splash page at the very beginning of the book, 5 or 6 pages in. And my splash pages, we love them. Like we absolutely love to do them. I design all my pages with my artists. So instead of like, it's not like the traditional, hey, look, this is what I want to see, and the artists get a hold of it and do what they will with it. I sit with Eric and we do our pages together, you know, and I think it's a bond, and it creates a much better product, than when you just get, hey, look, do this, and that's it. It's a better thing for you guys as viewers to get, something from the heart. Each panel is literally us busting balls and sweating to get we can get out. And they're never rushed, like I said, because the books are done beforehand.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I was looking at Kevin sent me a bunch of different stuff from the Kickstarter and everything, just to get, so I could have an idea of what you were doing and everything. And the artwork, we talked about it a little bit before we started the show. The artwork inside is really unique. It's not something you normally see in a comic book that I can remember. It's a very unique style. And I even said, it's reminding me of something, and it's going to drive me nuts. I can't put my finger on it yet, but it's reminded me of something that I used to see. But it's a very cool style. And does it have a different name to it? Because it's nothing I've seen in a comic book before.
Eric, I love Eric to death, man. He's an amazing artist. His stuff though is very his own. It's not like I couldn't even give you someone to reference.
Exactly.
But he's a traditional painter. He didn't come from a comic book background or anything. So like the first thing he sent me, like when we had all these applicants for the job, I said, you know what? Anybody can send me their portfolio. It takes a click of a button to send me their portfolio. But I was like, I want a team that's vested in what we're doing. So I was like, hey, dude, I blasted everybody. I was like, hey, if you're interested, here's the outline for our main character. Send me your view on it. You know what I mean? And that's how we cut it down. My wife and I literally spent 6 hours the night that we put the job up, and we got all these applicants, and I probably had 40 of them come back that spent the time to actually do a piece within the next week to get it to us. Oh, wow. And Eric's was so insane. Let me see. I think I have it in here real quick. He sent me this picture, this painting, and it was the first, hold on. It was the very first image of the listener that we ever, that came about, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Here it is. A beautiful, beautiful piece. Oh. And this was what he sent us originally. Wow. And, I mean, fully painted, just stunning piece. And it was so good that we ended up using it as a cover, for our first book. We used it as a variant. And,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I told him, I was like, man, that's above and beyond. I was looking for like a sketch from somebody, maybe with inks, you know what I'm saying? And he sends me a painting, and I was like, well, that's it. I'm sold. And he comes in and he starts blasting it with us. Like we were just, like I said, book 2 is already done. And we blasted book 2 out, right? It was so much fun. Now, getting back to Addie and our main character, Addison, and what he is, like I said, I tried to tie Native American spirituality into this character, and it evolved so much, like on its own. Like I was writing, and it just kept going, and it was an incredible experience so far. But he can see the dead now. As of book 2, he can see and interact with the dead. Okay. The listener is a bloodline trait, and there can only be one at a time. And I love that. I think that's so cool, because it adds such depth to this character and what he's dealing with. So you're in the middle of this war, and you're fighting for your life, and you're just starting to see all kinds of weird stuff. Right. Crazy stuff. Then it drive people wild. We end up dealing with a betrayal at the end of book 1. And it turns, we literally pick right up after that for book 2. Okay. One of the most interesting things about the listener, and I tried to take things that through my life that I liked and disliked in comic books, because I've been doing books forever. So it was like literally like, what did I enjoy? What did I not enjoy? What could I fix, to make it is the best we could make it. And there are certain things like I hate time jumping in comic books.
Okay.
Like, I think that the whole, like, I love Jim Lee's run of X-Men, right? I love the X-Men stuff. But at the same time, you would jump far, like so far into another story. Like you'd be in one and it'd be cool. And all of a sudden you're at a huge arc next, right? There's character building. You're in a huge arc again. And I felt like it was so important to give you guys different aspects of these characters. So like the PTSD and stuff like that. Whereas at the end of book 1, we go back into a scene with Addie and his father in a bar. And currently his father's alive, so he's a current listener. And you get that first aspect of spirituality at the end of the book. You start seeing, through earlier in it, we throw some, we pepper it in just a little bit, because they can see and hear the dead. So everybody thinks that, or Addie thinks his father's insane.
Right.
I mean, like he's talking to air. And we bring that up a lot. And we bring up the alcoholism, because it plagued Native Americans for a really long time, and it plagues men in this country today and women. Oh yeah. I'm not adverse to people drinking. I'm just saying alcoholism is a problem. When you go addict, just like anything else. So we bring that in, and we want to showcase that a little bit because it was very detrimental to that society, especially at that period in time. So we get into book 2. And you've got Addie, and he's in this bad situation, and we get heavily into the spirituality near the middle of the book, because if you've read the first one, you're literally like, oh my God, what's about to happen? My last page of the first book was the most profound piece that we've done yet, and that is the same goes for the second book. We're really into blowing it out of the water. There at the end. And I think it's become a staple for us. The very last image we leave you with is like, I need another bite. You know what I mean? Because that was just awesome. And we joke about, and still to this day, months later, we joke about the last page in book 1 in my house and amongst friends and stuff, because the last page wasn't even in the book till a week before print.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was absolutely insane. Because we were all talking about the fact that, this is your first book, you got to give it everything you got, right? So we're pushing and we're struggling to, make sure that it's everything it needs to be. And this page came up in my head, and everybody's like, I don't know, that may not pop off right. And I was like, look, we're going to do it. It's going to be great. And we sat down, we laid it out. Eric put, put it together, and it's everybody's favorite, right, from the first book. So then the second book came in, and I was like, I have to top that page on the last one in this one. And it's become a personal goal to almost give you guys something so incredible that it's what you wait for. You know, like I mentioned splash pages. We do huge splash pages because I'm a 90s kid, or 80s, 90s kid. And I love that. Like I said, I love the Jim Lee X-Men. I love Spawn. I love all these books that do these beautiful full splashes. And we throw you guys a couple of those each book, which is really exciting. You'll never get any dialogue in our splash pages just because it takes away from the art, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And our splash pages are, you're either going to love me or hate me for them. Not hate the page itself, but in the first book, they were to shock you and to show you something. And it's not about the gore or anything like that. It's the act itself that you're looking at that's terrifying. That people really did this to one another. And like I mentioned, the scariest stuff in book 1 is stuff that actually occurred. And that's what makes it so scary. Yeah. But we move into the spirituality very heavily, starting in the end of book 2, mid to end of book 2. And we start learning a little bit about what Addie's going through, what he's seeing. And in the book 3, we jump into almost a history lesson about who the original listener was, how the listener, And you go through about half of that because I enjoy backstory. You know, I feel like we need to get it. It helps with growth, right?
Right.
So as you're getting Addie's grandfather, how he becomes the listener, what's going on in that, and then you run into the fact that we come back into modern time because something stops them from continuing this discussion. Because a spirit is actually teaching Addie about his grandfather.
Okay.
So you have another character that is going after the guy that betrayed them at the end of the first book as well. So there are two things that are not finite in the listener, and they're death and time. Because you're talking about a character that can see the dead. So just because a character dies doesn't mean they're gone. You know what I mean? And we also bring into the fact that there are two sides in our world. You've got the living, and then you've got the spiritual realm. That Addie eventually gets to the point where he can traverse between both. And that's so much fun for us because I had to do something different. You know, everything that we've done is different than anybody else. So because our original IPs are so few and far between anymore that it was just like everything that we do has to be different. Like everybody's done research. Is this like this? Did that happen like that? You know, we didn't want anything to be the same, even color schemes. Okay. So when you go into the spiritual realm, everything is black, white, and gray, with the exception of spirits themselves. Spirits would occur in their actual colors, like they would if they were alive while they're in the spiritual realm, versus in the living realm where Addie sees them as blues and whites.
Okay.
You know, and the like demons or evil entities would be blacks and reds that he sees in the living realm. Where if he crosses over, everybody is the color that they would be. You know what I mean? Versus the background, which was so much fun because we can make these scenes pop. You know, you've got black and white backgrounds and gray backgrounds with these beautifully painted images on top of them. And that's been such a cool experience to try to figure out how we could balance that. You know what I mean? How we could show people these massive fight scenes, right? That would bleed between both realms, the living and the spiritual. So one cool thing that we've done, and you guys will see more of in the future, like I said, there's only so much you can show in each book, and I'm not trying to rush people, you know. Our books are all 24 pages, starting in book 2. The first one was 21 because I was still learning what I was doing. The second book is 24, and going up forward, there'll be 24 pages a piece.
Nice.
But there's only so much space you have in 24 pages. And like I said, I'm not trying to overwhelm people with things. So I love giving the story and stuff. But as a book that's 33 to 35 pages, 35 issues done already, it's literally like I've built this world, right? So we joke about the burden of knowledge all the time. And it's literally like, I would love to get you guys all caught up, you know what I mean? But there's so many spoilers and stuff we don't want to get into because of the fact that it's interesting. It ties into this series. And with Addie, he's not a good guy. And he's not a bad guy. He's just a guy. And that's the thing that my Uncle Les talked about a lot. You know, he didn't choose to join the military. It was thrust upon him. And then at the same time, it wasn't a war he believed he needed to be fighting in anyway. You know, he was just really good at it. And that's what changed his life. And we view the listeners the same way. You know, Les would be like, I didn't kill people because the government told me to. I killed people because I had to kill people. And that's what it became. You know, the listener is the same way. It's not, Addie doesn't do anything that he doesn't have to do. You know, it's well, if I help somebody, it's because, you know, my moral compass is saying it's the right thing to do. It may not always be the right thing to do, or he may not always do what you expect him to do. And because it's a humanized trait with him. Like I said, I wasn't writing a superhero story, and I wasn't trying to give you this amazing protagonist that you could go to church with next weekend. You know what I mean? And I think that's very powerful because people have different sides of them. We can't just give you something that you expect. You know, if he's going to be what you expect every week, I'm doing something wrong. You know, it becomes you're not curious anymore. It becomes he is a, you know, superhero now, if we look at it like that. He's going to do everything we expect. He's going to save everybody we expect him to save. You know, things like that are very important to make them different. Same thing with characters. Like I said, death's not finite, but not all our characters are going to make it through every issue.
Right.
You know, especially while we're over in China right now, and they're fighting the Japanese, which a lot of people aren't educated in, and that's another thing we like to educate people about. We're actually assisting the Chinese pushing back the Japanese in World War II, you know, which is, and so it's a lot of fun to talk about. History is very interesting, and to be able to, you know, show people little bits and tidbits that they may not have seen before. You know, like with Les's stories, you know, Wind Talkers was like a very overly hyped type of thing. And Les's group of dudes, they were like 3 dudes that they'd drop in the middle of nowhere and be like, clean this area out before everybody else gets here. You know, and it was just, there was no thought to their lives. You know, it was literally like, we'll put you out there. And eventually they started putting them out there with hounds. The military would breed these hounds, and they didn't even know what they were. They were just the biggest, gnarliest dogs they could breed.
Right.
And these guys spent a lot of time with these animals, and it became almost like team members. You know, you'd have 3 dudes and 2 dogs dropped in the middle of nowhere, and if they came back, fine. If they didn't, whatever.
Right.
You know, and that was very important to us, that we showed people that, hey, look, they are people. You know, they have their own thoughts and opinions, and the things that they dealt with weren't okay. You know, and but that brings us to the fact that I got in really heavily into the Native American spirituality and started bringing in these deities and stuff. Because Addie can see them. Like the first one we bring in, we introduce him in the second book. His name is Odysseia. I make all these deities much scarier than the original text, which were scary enough as it is. But the imagery that people would put out, to this day and age, we're desensitized. So I had to go above and beyond to make these things scarier than they would have been, you know, because our brains are different. We're wired differently now than the original texts that were written 150, 200 years ago, and even older in a bunch of cases, you know. Like at one point we're going to get into, you know, Celtic beliefs and Celtic lore. I've already written in Kugelain, which is really fun. We've written in the Morgan, which is great. She's going to be a really fun character as well. I mean, the 7 Deadly Sins have been written in. The 4 Horsemen have been written in.
Oh, wow. You're hitting everything.
Because it's not secular, and that's what people think, and that's the sad thing.
Right.
Religion is so much more. Theology is so much bigger than the one that you may believe in. You know what I'm saying? So with the listener, we've created this world where, let's say, and I use this because it's easy to do. If you were in Jersey, okay, and you crossed the veil and you were into the spiritual realm, you'd be standing in Valhalla, okay? And if you walk the Bifrost, you'd be over in Italy and standing before the gates of heaven. They both exist in our realm.
Okay.
You know, God and Odin, you know, Zeus, they all exist within the listener's realm. Not to say that they feel the need to involve themselves in, you know, mortal thinking, you know, but they exist. The same with Hades and Lucifer. You know, it's interesting, right? Because when you go to pitch to an artist, you have to pitch something that they would be interested in. You know, because you don't just want to get someone that is there for the dollars of it, and that's fine. But you need to be able to pitch to people that are like-minded. You know, you really want to get a team together that can work for you. So when I pitched the listener, I pitched everything about my Uncle Les, what my Uncle Les went through, you know, and I also pitched where we were moving with it, you know, where it was going to be. Like we're culminating in the, which will be our first huge story arc, which will be the War of Sin, and which our tabletop game is tied into, which is the title is The Road to Sin. So when we pitched this to an artist, I had to have like full backstory, you know, what they would be seeing, how they would feel about it, but you have to find somebody that vibes with you as a person. Because like when Eric, I gave him a page, the first ideas and page layouts I had, he was like, this is amazing. I love this. Let's do this. And when we first started working together, he was putting stuff down and it was almost like it was coming straight out of my head. So you have to give an artist, as a writer, you have to give the artist exactly what you want to see, like to the letter that you can give them, because they have to have that to go off of. Like right now, the easiest example I can give is we're working on our second series, Greed, right now as well. And Manuel Soto is doing the interior line work for that. And I sent him the script and I got back exactly what I saw, like exactly word for word what I imagined.
Right.
Actually, I can hold on. I can show you guys that real quick so you get an understanding to answer that question.
Yeah.
I went into I've got an engineering degree, and what I did was I used my my own talent set to describe to people what I wanted to see. So these are our main characters for the second book. This is Oz, and this is Cade. And what we did was I sent a script to them and everybody on the team, and this is exactly what I imagined my character to be, and that's how they pulled it off. His style is very different than Eric's style, so you get to see some really interesting differences in the two different series. But and this is after David colored it.
Oh wow,
beautiful stuff. But it becomes this. You have to give these guys not only an elevator pitch to these artists, but you have to give them so much, because you have to give them what you would want, right? You have to, the bottom line is it's almost like you're selling it to a reader. If they're going to enjoy it, they have to be on board and understand exactly what you're saying, because you can't get with someone that doesn't see what your vision,
Right.
But it's not their fault if they don't see it, if you don't write to them the best description you can possibly give them. It can't be like a half-assed description because they can't read your mind, right?
Right.
So you have to literally go in and give them word for word detail for detail. It can give them a little freedom, but most of the time they'll ask you, what did you want to see here? How did you want this to look? And it's almost professional courtesy to give them everything you possibly can. And that's the only way I know to do it, because, you don't want to go back to the table 4 and 5 times, because it starts to get frustrating for both members, you and your artist, because they're starting to feel like you're not giving them enough, and you're starting to feel like they're not good enough, and that's detrimental to the project altogether. So I would definitely give them everything you can give them. I mean, give them the most in-depth descriptions you possibly can. And that goes for panels as well, not just for character designs or anything like that. But, hey, look, like I want a blanket used in the first page of the new series that looks almost like Star Wars. You know what I mean? Almost. Just enough to give you an idea of time period,
Okay.
With like a night light that almost looks like it's from Jurassic Park. Just to give you an idea of where you are, in time, and things like that are very important, and your artist will pick up on your vibe, right? After you've been working together for a little bit, like we worked on the first book for 8 months, before we put it out, and it was such an amazing experience. But you get to this point where it's like, okay, he's got it, or she's got it, or they've got it,
Right.
And it starts to get to where it's almost like repetition. They start to get what you've got before you even need to say it. And that's a very powerful thing. And I hope that answers it, because there's, like you said, man, if you follow us on Facebook, the Listener Comic Series on Facebook, we put up detailed, descriptions and stuff of panels we're working on, pages we're working on. So you guys can see the how it's coming together. And ask the team questions and stuff, and they answer. So it's very cool dealing with stuff like that. We treat our Facebook page like you would treat a convention. So you guys can actually get in and ask questions. We'll answer them, have fun with it. but yeah, that's the way I do it, man. I like I said, I don't know another way to do it, but it's a
Oh
lot.
yeah. Well, I'm sure there is, like, everybody, like we talked about off the show a little bit, everybody kind of does their own thing a little bit differently. Even you're probably the third or fourth Kickstarter person that I've had on the show, and everybody runs differently. It's
Absolutely.
That's always the fun conversation about these and how you go about doing it, because everybody just does a little tweaks, whatever works for them.
For sure.
Speaking of which, I actually, it caught my attention. I watched the video that was sent to me kind of talking about the Kickstarter and everything. And you donating part of the proceeds to a wolf sanctuary, is that correct?
We are donating part of the proceeds to a wolf sanctuary because of the fact, like I mentioned earlier, Les was very tight with these animals, know, and wolves are one of those animals that are very spiritually tied, to culture, and not just one culture, but many cultures. And to think that there'd be a story that we'd forgotten is unbelievable to me, and like red wolves alone are declining in mass because we're encroaching on their land and how they live and stuff like that. And we're encroaching on, I can't help every animal, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm avidly against their story being forgotten. So we're donating a good chunk to them. And I feel like that's a really good thing for us as people, because it makes us feel good about what we're doing. And it's just another thing that I think that my uncle would approve of us doing. So
yeah, that's really cool. I dug it a lot. I don't know why. I love wolves. I love, I actually follow a few wolf sanctuaries on TikTok. So it's always cool to see them, because they get them talking and everything like that. And some of them are just huge. Like, my God.
Absolutely. Well, our hounds in the listener stand 4 feet high and are almost 6 feet long. Ooh. They're really, really big animals. And that was how he described them to me. He was like, they're like blockheads, and they'd be, their head would be at your chest.
Right.
And they'd be longer than you were tall. And it never came across me to question what he said, because of the fact that I wouldn't put it past people, at that point in time, to breed these monstrous animals, So, and because we see people breeding animals now, I mean, we used to have reptiles and stuff before our kids were born, and poison dart frogs and all kinds of cool stuff. Right. But there's a point where you realize that during war, there is really no, especially back then, there was no line that people wouldn't cross.
No.
And the stuff they talk about dolphins being trained to do things and all kinds of other stuff. It's very real concepts.
Right.
And, I ran with it, and it was one of those things that I didn't want to forget. So our hounds, Neil and Nietzsche, the Winds is what we call them. That's so awesome, Josh. That's
very cool, Josh. For those that are not watching live or only doing the audio version, Joshua pops in. Love this. I have a wolf I rescued and have been heavily involved in animal rescue for 15 years. So that's fantastic.
That is, man. That's so cool. But we've made them characters of their own. Neil and Nietzsche have their own thoughts, their own facial expressions, their own, feelings about what's going on, and their own versions of camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important, that you see them as characters. It's it was important to me that they were their own characters. It wasn't like, okay, well, they were just afterthoughts in our series. They're very important characters, and like I mentioned, have their own thoughts and opinions. And they, not to give away my own story, but in the second book, you'll get more of them. You'll get much more. The second book, we actually put Addie almost on the back burner to teach you guys more about these other characters that are involved in the story. Backstory, and bringing up where they're from, how their stuff started. And what we can do with them as characters. We bring Nostos in. We he was in the first book, but we show a lot more about Nostos. We show a lot more about Gaji, and Guy for short. And there's all these things that we can introduce with characters now that we couldn't do in the first book, just because, like I mentioned, 21 to 24 pages you can only fit so much information. And like I said, I'm a sucker for splash pages. So, you get big, bold imagery with us.
Right.
And the spirituality shows in both books, and moving forward, like I said, we're bringing everything into it. Swing by if you guys get the chance, check out the Kickstarter. I think my favorite add-on right now is Between Guy's Journal, which, like I said, is 30 full page paintings that you guys will get, plus descriptions from our characters' points of view. But there's also soap on there, and I think that's the coolest add-on, because it actually smells like campfire, gunpowder, and whiskey.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It is so cool. And I use it. I wouldn't try to get it to you guys if I didn't. I think it's great. And then we've also added, like I mentioned before, we're doing the Road to Sin, which is our tabletop RPG.
Right.
One of the other add-ons to the campaign is Guy's dice, which look like they're carved from bone. They are a whole D20 set of dice. Very, very cool. And then there's another add-on to that you can add for a leather-bound bag, like a drawstring bag for them as well. So there's all kinds of fun stuff. There's 11 by 17 posters on there by David Acampo, which came out really cool. I think I have them saved that I can show you guys real quick. Cool. I love David's work. He's an incredible human being altogether, but his work is, second to none. This is one of them. This is Addie and Sonny going at it. And both these characters are loosely based on real people. So I'm excited to be able to show you guys stuff like that. And like I said, David's work is just phenomenal. And then we've got his other poster, I think, on here as well. Yeah, we do. So there's his other.
Oh, yeah, that one I really liked.
Yeah, these are all posters. I'm trying to decide which one to do on the next Kickstarter. Will be the trade paperback that we're doing in Spanish.
Okay.
And English. And one of these will be a wraparound cover for that. Oh,
nice.
So I'm really excited about that. But we have had a lot of fun with it. Like, it's just been an amazing experience so far, man. Like I mentioned, with everybody's feedback and how they viewed the series and what people are saying about it has been phenomenal, and has drove us as people and a team to continue one-upping ourselves as we move forward.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic. Well, we're right at the end of the episode. Dustin, thank you so much for taking time and being on the show, and it's been great chatting with you. Let everybody know where they can follow you, find the comics, and all that good stuff.
I suck at Twitter, and I suck at Instagram. Facebook, though, I am probably the best. I'm gonna throw this out there and toot my own horn. I am like a babysitter of my own Facebook. Okay. So, if you guys want to hit me up on Facebook, feel free. It's Dustin Brunell on Facebook. And you can also go to the Listener Comics series. We've got a Facebook for it. We always answer, guys. Like, even if it's just to shoot the shit or ask questions about the book, the series, I'm all over that. You can also hit me up on the Kickstarter. I follow the Kickstarter pretty religiously as well. There's nothing that we aren't prepared to talk about,
Nice.
Like religion, anything like that. We have a good time with it. We're more than happy to talk about any of your beliefs. Like I said, I learned about trolls the other day, so that was fun. But it's very important. Like one thing somebody brought up, they were like, have you thought about the impact on the series? People's opinions, like Native Americans' opinions and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, like I mentioned, I'm 18%. We can go down that route if that's something you guys want to talk about. But I had the Gary Lightfoot. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but he is was the main character in The Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh, okay.
He has read my book, enjoyed my book, and also has his likeness on a cover for my first book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I've done my research. I'm very aware of how people feel. I'm super excited to be able to educate people, like I said. You can reach me, like I said, guys. Facebook is real easy. You know, I'm on all the time just because I am my own worst critic, so I pay attention to everything going on.
Right.
But don't hesitate. You know, email. I suck with email because I get so many. You know, especially with work and people that want to work with us and stuff like that. That I had to hire an agent. Kevin Get is my my agent. He works. He owns Inked Marketing. Great guy. And they offer a ton of cool stuff like the Road Show. You know, like he was the guy that set me up to talk to you guys. So I'm very excited to be able to market with those guys and a great group of people. But yeah, man, I'm easy. You know, easy to find, easy to get a hold of.
Well, and the website and the link to the Kickstarter is in the description down below. So if you guys want to check it out, I also dropped the website in the comment section too. So feel free to click on that and support an awesome Kickstarter and an awesome creator. Again, thank you so much, Dustin, for popping in. This has been Back Talk with Bauer. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please tune in this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the normal time we do the show, 7 p.m. Eastern. This week, we're going to be chatting about WandaVision, do the whole recap and everything like that. And like I said at the top of the show, if you like any of the artwork behind here, any of the graphic design stuff, intro videos, any of that good stuff, head over to JBauerArt.com. You can find all of that awesome stuff. And Jason wanted to let me know from Kingdom of Comics that they're doing 20% off all variant covers. And that's in store on the website as well. So go check out Kingdom of Comics. Other than that, I will catch you guys on Tuesday night. Later.
Thanks, guys.